Hello again, everyone. This is Caroline, and today is September 15, 2013. And I hope everybody's doing okay. We've had kind of a crazy summer, I think, quite turbulent, I thought, energetically. That's the reason why I wanted to get together today and see how we can manage these energies and see how we can continue moving forward with a higher vibration, with the right focus. For our work. So I think what's been happening. Many people also have emailed me with some strange physical symptoms, kind of dizziness, headaches, and things like that. And I wanted to tell you that throughout the summer, there's quite a bit of geomagnetic movement going on. The magnetic field around the Earth has been pulling and pulling right and left, and of course readjusting. And that's the reason why it affects our, especially the head area. So if you have been experiencing these things, know that this is due to the planet trying to find it's kind of new positioning within the bigger grid system. And so all this magnetic pulling affects your physical head and also your functioning, your mind and clarity in the focus of your mind channels. So hopefully it is getting a little bit better. I think it's getting a little bit better. And it should be improving as we move forward into the fall. So that is on the geomagnetic level. But seriously, how could we miss everything else that's happening in a 3D way on the political scene and everything else? And I think what's important here is that uh, because we are seeing that the dominant energies, or the 3D dominant information that's out there, meaning the political scene and what's happening on the planet, um, is seems to be the dominant energy on the planet, because everybody's focusing on it, everybody's talking about it. So it's very confusing, because here we are doing all this spiritual work and all this global shifting and global healing and this and that. And we had the whole 2012, 2013, and the grid system coming into new position. So it's very confusing, because what we are observing in 3D is all this ugliness, honestly, because it's like the old paradigm is older than ever. We are still hearing the same talk, seeing the same scenarios over and over. So it's quite confusing, and that's the reason why I wanted to talk to everybody today, because the fact that the 3D in a 3D way, we are seeing more of the old paradigm as if it were in the front stage, so to speak. It does not mean that the old paradigm is kind of getting ahead or is becoming more important. The fact that we are seeing it in the front stage is simply that it is what is the most the fact that it's on the news doesn't mean that it's the actual most important energy. Because I did speak, I think, a couple of months ago on the last webcast, I said that the most important, the dominant energy is the huge source energy, the spiritual energy. So it does not mean that there are more people doing spiritual work. It means that the if you want to call it winning, or the stronger energy is the spiritual energy. So it's very confusing, because we know on a deeper level that the spiritual energy is stronger, but then we see in a 3D way that the dominant information and energies is this whole old paradigm. So that's why this is very, very important to understand that what is being created in the background, it's like a behind the scenes, does not immediately translate into a 3D reality. So, all the work that you've been doing, that we've been doing together to set the stage for a new higher consciousness, a new form of reality, does not appear in one day. Not because we have just passed 2012, now we're in 2013, that everything turns around in one day. In fact, it's quite good that the old paradigm is blowing up in a huge way, because it means that it's kind of being addressed. Finally, everything is exaggerated, everything is even more than it was ever before. And to me, that is the importance, is that it is finally kind of battling itself in front of everyone. It's like people can now see, because this old paradigm structure is in the forefront, everybody can see what's being played out. You see, it's being exposed, if you will. And so we have to we have to be very, very clear that the fact that it is taking the center stage does not make it the most dominant, or that it is kind of becoming more important than the work that you've been doing and all the energy that we've been holding. So that's very, very important. And so, in fact, to me, the fact that it's being exposed in this way, it's fantastic, because humanity in general is at a different place, whether we can see it or not. But I think people can see clearly, even though they have not been doing spiritual work the way you have, but it's still they are at a different place, you know. And so I feel that this is kind of the final stage. The old paradigm has to get to this huge place in order for it to begin to, it's like it's battling itself, is, you know, it's like the final round battling itself. So where does that leave you? That's why you may feel stuck between the two, or pulled between the two, because you know deep inside where you stand energetically, or the work that you have been working on, and that we are still working on. So you have that within you, and at the same time you are pulled with the magnetic field, with everything else that has been happening in a 3D way. So, you know, for those who took my class a couple of years ago, and also in the webcast, I did talk about this time. I said at one point the gap is going to be so big, you're going to feel like you're being pulled right and left. So it's very important. I called it, you want to get on the bus, you have to get on the bus now, because you in other words, you have to really, really become solid in your own belief systems, in your own energetic alignment, to make sure that no matter what is happening, what is coming to the forefront and being played out center stage, does not pull you right and left. So that is what is very important to understand. Um, and also, what happens is that as you start to get pulled into this reality that's being played out before you, you also have it's kind of it becomes difficult to create properly. And somebody earlier was asking me about, okay, the gap between the where you are and the people around you, but it's even more than that, because let me take a very simple example, a practical example. Somebody asked me about the political situation. Obviously, this is not a political show. I'm not interested in politics. I'm interested in energy and consciousness evolution. So we're only speaking from that perspective alone. And and say addressing the situation or this issue from this perspective. So, for example, as we see something unfold, this situation in Syria, or about going to war, or chemical weapons, or things in India, or Fukushima, what have you. So we have this story that is being played out before us, and our the way we are being pulled is in our the way we are then reacting and creating. So what this means is that you have the human brain that's going to react a certain way, and then you have the let's say your universal brain, your higher consciousness, that holds the bigger picture. So what happens is that your human brain is going to get pulled into this situation, this story that is being played out in front of you, and you're going to react a certain way, and you're going to say, oh, no war, or we should punish this, or go do that, or what have you, and not understanding that it's still your human brain being pulled into the old paradigm and making you react and create from that perspective. And because we've seen that many times, especially for those who have been working with Omnium and understanding this work at a deeper level, when you think, you create. When you focus with intent, you create. And so you are then reacting and saying, okay, we don't want war, or this guy needs to be punished, or we should go and help this guy or this country or what have you. But from that human perspective, that human brain perspective. And by doing so, you are then contributing, you're adding to the collective pool that thinks and functions from the human brain, you see. And so not only from an emotional point of view you're being pulled, you are starting to create also just the same. And you are not able to kind of hold, or kind of pull back, if you will, and transcend the current situation, raise your vibration, and go to your universal mind or your higher consciousness part of yourself, and allow that to create with you, with through your human mind. And so this is what is relevant for us here today, is this pulling back and forth, is on a creation level, on a consciousness level. So to remember that we are not here to add to the current collective pool of consciousness. Otherwise, what are we doing here? We are here to contribute to a higher perspective. So, going back to this very practical example, my human mind, when I see something, a story being played out on TV, and it's telling me, this guy is using chemical weapons, and by law he shouldn't, and this and that. Of course, my emotions are going to be, for example, anger or disappointment, or what have you, and my human mind is going to follow with saying, oh, we shouldn't go to war, or we should do this, or we should punish this or that. So that is my immediate reaction. But honestly, how do we really know? How Obviously, it's a no-brainer that war does not solve anything. So that's not the discussion. The discussion is about you creating. Every time you think and you focus your intent, you are creating, you see, with humanity. Even from the privacy of your own home. You don't have to be on the web saying this or that or what you think to be creating. You are creating right now. We are creating right this moment. And that creation is going into the pool of the collective consciousness. So when you say we shouldn't go to war, or we should go and punish this guy, or we shouldn't do this, we shouldn't do that, you have created. That's it. Your vote is in, if you will. And that came from the human mind. That came from the emotion that was triggered from the information you were given. So So even though we all know that war does not solve anything, but you can still uh, bring out your creation from the higher perspective, you see. And that is what I am speaking of today to you, that you are here to evolve the consciousness of humanity, to hold the vibration at the highest level. You cannot do that if your thoughts are coming from your human mind. And so, in a practical sense, you may feel certain things, and of course, we will feel certain things when we see images and we hear information. Our human mind may trigger an immediate reaction or a response or what have you. But remember that you are immediately creating a momentum, you are adding to the collective momentum. And so, it is our responsibility as spiritual masters. We have come here to master our human mind. We have not come here to just follow what everybody's saying and say, yeah, 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 and that's it, and you're right, and he's wrong. And, this planet is a mess. This planet is in total chaos. So, at this stage, to say this is right and this is wrong is very short sighted. I mean, you cannot see the whole picture, and that decision will not solve the whole situation. So, remembering that we have come to bring new information, a new way of thinking, an elevated and evolved way of creating, we have to remember that even though we may be pulled into that human emotion or that human comment or that human experience, we can still trigger and manifest the proper response. So, we're going to do a little bit of an exercise so, to show you how the immediate human response may be one thing, but then the response to whatever political situation it is or whatever information coming from the higher perspective may be quite another thing. And so that is what I hope you are understanding and agreeing with, that we I feel like this is our responsibility as spiritual beings, as evolved and awakened beings, to change the course of humanity simply by holding this higher consciousness level of information, holding it. We don't have to be telling this guy what to do or that guy what to do, or punish him, or I mean, for me, it's like, who are we to say this is the right thing? Of course, we all agree war in general doesn't resolve anything. But as soon as you say, let's go, okay, this guy needs to be put to death because he raped a 14-year-old. Really? Can you really, really, really say this is what should happen to this individual? You see? So I feel that it is time and it is important to make sure we are not saying this should be done or that should be done to this individual or that individual or what have you, and still allow our humanity to come forth in a graceful way, always guided by our higher consciousness. And so that is what I wanted to bring today to you through this experiential exercise, and also through the guided meditation, to see how, well, in the midst of all of this chaos, as you are feeling pulled right and left, to always have that clarity, to allow your human mind to express itself, but all only if it's guided properly from your higher consciousness. All right, I'm going to stop right here. If you have a couple questions, go ahead and type in your questions, and we will get going with the guided meditation. So it's your turn for any comments or questions. All right. You can raise your hand if you have a mic. Otherwise, you can type in your question. And I'm still getting my. All right, here we go. Who has a question or a comment? Okay, so the sun also is behaving quite strangely. Could you speak about that? Yeah, of course. Like I said, the Earth is really, really, really struggling right now. It needs to kind of burst, and so the sun has a lot to do with this. And of course, the sun works with the core of the planet. There's a lot of magnetic movement. That's what I started by saying as we open we began this webcast. So the geomagnetic energy also is very, very kind of um, very, very strong, and that's the reason why, like I said, you could be also feeling pulled energetically because of the sun. The planet is seriously about to burst. And so that is the reason why we are here to assist its transition, its new reconfiguration. It is very much orchestrated, coordinated. It is nothing to be afraid of. We will see a lot of movement with the Earth and the solar. I mean, we've been talking about this for several years now, and it all works together. As now, a lot of the geophysical events have happened right on track. A couple of them have been delayed a bit because of the human made events, and so all of this is orchestrated to ensure that the planet will be regenerated, recreated in a healthy way, just like you are awakening to a new you. The planet also is awakening to its new self, if you will. And so part of this is the sun. The sun sending out its the flares, and doing all these this all these sorts of movement. Any other questions? And this also, like I said, it contributes to you feeling pulled, a little bit of dizziness here and there, and a little bit of feeling the confusion, having the ability to focus becomes that much harder. Okay, somebody's asking how to overcome the challenge of manifesting a job or career in line with spiritual integrity that provides financial support to live in 3D experiences, housing, utilities, food, transportation, while we still have the use to use money to survive. Yeah, so, like I've been saying all along, you can still create. Now, we are transitioning. I said that many times. Don't expect that in one day the whole monetary system is going to collapse and everything changes on all levels in one day. That's what I've been saying with, for example, I Co Create. It's just a platform. We're building it gradually so you can. Gradually ease into a new system. So, people are still functioning. The Obviously the electric company and the water company, they're not going to do a trade with you for a healing session or something like that. So for a little while we still need some money coming through, and the use of money for a short time. So understanding this, you know you don't have to make it so difficult on yourself and be so against money. You shouldn't have to be against anything. Things are the way they are, and you can create your reality accordingly. You can be friends with money for the use of supporting you, not that you believe in the monetary system or in the whole greed or the whole Wall Street. You're not buying into any of that. You're just using that aspect to facilitate your 3D experience. There's nothing wrong with that. A lot of you kind of make a big deal out of the money thing. And also, you make it a problem with spiritual work, as if spiritual work should not kind of like money and spiritual work don't go together. This is only your belief system. Now, it goes together to a certain degree. Again, spiritual work is just like any work. Spiritual work is time, so again, the internet company is not going to I'm not going to be able to exchange, a healing session with the internet company. I still have to pay them whatever dollar they're asking me every month. So it's okay. Even though I'm doing spiritual work, I can tell them all day long, hey, but this is for the good of humanity. They don't care, you see. And so if you simply change your belief system and understand that we are creating a new reality, we are transitioning, you will see that these dollars will start to flow, and it will not be such a big issue. Now, many of you that are on a higher spiritual path have an issue with money. You keep yourself poor, so to speak, because on a deeper level, and you understand and you remember that the money issue is a program. It's almost like it's kind of hooks you in. You become a slave, if you will, of that reality. And because you want to keep yourself free and on track of your spiritual evolution and awakening, then you kind of don't want to be confused with the money issue. We don't want to be focused on that, and so you create a belief system that I'd rather be poor and spiritual than with money and risk being off track. This is only a belief system. You can work around it. It's not a big deal. Don't make it a big deal. Understand you are still working for the highest good, and you will be fine. Okay, last question, so we can get to the work here. You have mentioned in the past that we should keep a certain location on the earth as our home base, and yet I have been called to travel. What do you think about this for 2014, staying in or locate? I'm not going to answer this question really, because it depends. That is my answer. Everybody is needs different things. You cannot have one answer for everybody, for everything. And so my answer is it depends. Now, having said that, with what is happening on the earth being pulled right and left, be aware that certain geographical areas are going to be easier to be in because they are more open, more connected than other places. So, I mean, go throw yourself in the middle of, Capitol Hill or something. You're probably going to feel a lot more, claustrophobic because of what is being played out right there. Having said that, you could still hold your energy and your connection being close to that place, maybe. So that's why, you can't generalize. You really have to be aware of where you are, how you connect, and what you are being called to do. Okay, next question. Considering myself spiritually advanced, I seem to be pulled down by things that wouldn't attain me before, and I surprise myself so low and down. And I sometimes think of suicide to end what seems to be have been all this spiritual work for nothing. And I find this life very tough because of the different or no spiritual levels of people. Okay, my dear Sandrine. So that is the reason why I started this webcast by saying, what I said, that we have been doing all this spiritual work and putting all this energy, and what we are observing, what is coming out in 3D, what's being played out before our eyes, is this old paradigm, is this very, very low vibration of people fighting each other. It's all about ego, about business, about production, and about gain, and so on and so forth. So that is exactly why I'm having this conversation with you, to tell you to make sure you are not being confused and you're not being pulled back into what you are seeing. What you are seeing is the result of your of your spiritual work. That's what I'm saying. You see, the invisible is creating the visible. The invisible is all the energetic work that you've been doing, all the spiritual work that you all have been doing. That is what is triggering what you're seeing today. What is weird is that you don't see the connection. That is why we're having this conversation. You don't see that the work that you've been doing in order to get to the higher spiritual levels for the earth and for humanity is to first bring out this ugliness to the forefront, to expose the the old paradigm, and for it to finally dissolve before our eyes. And so hopefully this will clarify things for you and will keep you on track. Okay, so we're going to stop here for a second. I'm going to start the recording, so please give me just a few seconds and begin to quiet down. And we're going to do a very, very beautiful meditation. So I'll be right back.